Decisions are things that we have to make sometimes on a daily basis. Sometimes you have to make seasonal decisions. And sometimes we have to make decisions that change a generation. Decisions that change a life and change lives around us. Decisions that change and alter a future and a destiny. So the Lord Jesus Christ was about to make a decision that would change the world. A decision that even affects you and I today. And before we get into the decisions that he made, I just want to share something that happened in my personal life. And I hardly talk about myself, and I try not to talk about myself in these videos, but the Spirit of the Lord is just leading me to share this with you before we get into this word. Now, before I got married in 2020 during a pandemic, but around 2018, the Lord said to me, don't just choose any bridesmaid for your wedding. You have to seek me first, and I will show you who you need to choose. And on that particular day, I'd actually asked one of my friends to be a bridesmaid for my wedding. And I'd asked many other girls before to be my bridesmaids, because in my mind, I was going to have this big, huge wedding. So for me, I was just taken aback. For me, I was very surprised. And I just thought, gosh, this is such a trivial thing. It's just a wedding. I just thought, Lord, it's just a wedding. Do I really need to pray about who my bridesmaids need to be? I don't know about you. Maybe there's certain decisions that you have to make in life, and you just think, oh, this is so small. Do I really need to pray seriously about this? Do I need to really spend hours and hours praying about this? Do I need to really consult with God over such a small little thing? This is just a small part of the wedding. So I thought to myself, gosh, I have to actually seek you to know who my bridesmaids should be. Fast forward to 2019, the Lord spoke to me during a sermon, and he said, you're not going to need a lot of people for your wedding train. Those were his words. You're not going to need a lot of people for your wedding train. You're just going to need a few people. Now, in my mind, I thought, okay, maybe it's 3 people that I'm going to need for my wedding train. Fast forward to 2020. Now, the people around my life at the time kind of pressuring me to have about 7 bridesmaids, but in my heart, it didn't sit well with me. And I remember one of the people was saying that they were praying for me, and obviously this person hears from God, etc., etc. And I felt so much pressure that I need to do things according to what they want, according to what other people want. When you're planning a wedding, there's so many opinions. But then I remembered, no, God told me I'm not going to need a lot of people. This is now about February 2020. Fast forward to March, April, the pandemic hits. Everything shuts down. We are still planning a wedding because we were planning to get married in 2020. And then I remembered the words of the Lord. You're not going to need a lot of people. Daphne, seek me for who you want. And at the time, I'd already chose a maid of honor. But then the Lord told me that no, that person is not your maid of honor. This other person is your maid of honor. And that person that the Lord was saying is my maid of honor. We were not really close. We're not really friends. But it's like when the Lord speaks to you, you just have to do it, even though it doesn't make sense. So I had to make the hard decision to tell the maid of honor that I had chosen that I'm so sorry, but God is telling me to go with somebody else. I'm really, really sorry. When I chose you, I actually hadn't consulted with the Lord about who should be my maid of honor and who should be my bridesmaids. So I had to go and apologize to that person. I had to go and tell them that they can't be my maid of honor. And then the person whom God had told me should be my maid of honor, I went and asked that person. And since then, we became so close. And that person is a very close friend of mine even today. So we got married during a pandemic. And at the time, you're only allowed 15 guests. And so because of that, I only had one person in my bridal train. And that person was my maid of honor. I didn't have any bridesmaids for my wedding. I only had a maid of honor. This is why God had spoken to me in 2018. And he said, Daphne, you need to seek me for your bridal train, just as I sought the face of the Father. In 2019, again, the Lord spoke to me that you're not going to need a lot of people for this thing. And for sure, the Lord knew that I was going to get married in a pandemic when only 15 guests are allowed to attend a wedding. Do you see that? Do you see why it's important to seek the face of God for the decisions that we make? Now, I want to